Hey, almost 8 months ago, I can't believe it's been almost 8 months already, I started a project. I set myself a challenge. Do a run of Noita with no mods where I acquire every single obtainable material, no matter how rare, and experiment with them to possibly learn new alchemy, solve the cauldron, etc. Well, over that time, we have learned a lot of interesting things, including how to easily obtain some materials we previously thought were basically unobtainable. I've been streaming this entire process at twitch.tv/FuryForged pretty much every single time I stream, and then I upload the VODs to youtube.com/FurySquared if you want to go check those out to see everything I've already done, and if you want to hang out with me live while I work on it more after this video. Yeah, because I'm going to be working on it for a long time. Thousands of hours, potentially. But today, I'm finally bringing some of it here to the main YouTube channel. For now, let me give you a quick tour of my current alchemy lab. Alright, we begin right here at the main entrance, right next to the dragon cave, which is mostly gone now. The egg is mostly gone. And we just have a series of materials, blood up there, pus down here. Got some pheromone in the center of these globes, these material globes. And then I created like an endless reaction right here with concentrated mana with a little bit of purifying powder at the bottom. So it just makes kind of like little bubbles of water go up. That then the water, when it touches the concentrated mana, it turns back into concentrated mana. And it just continuously does that for all time. And then here, did you guys know that pus is basically a trash compactor? It deletes items, which I'm going to demonstrate for everyone right here by just spraying pus into this mimicium. And look, the broken wand just gets reduced. Oh, it's still a little bit there, but it's just getting turned into smoke right now. I can still pick it up right now. Oh, never mind. As soon as I moved, it was like, haha, nope. As a quick aside and a little tip for ya, look at that damage. It does a lot of damage because I have a lot of max HP, but if you drink it when you have the iron stomach perk, there it is, you can actually become immune to it. The same thing is true for all the different types of poly and any kind of debuff. Drink Flummuxium to become immune to confusion. If you have iron stomach and you just eat those things, you become immune to those things for a short while. Anyway, so here's the teleporter room. My base, the lab, the main part of the lab is actually underneath this. And this whole thing, this whole lab is a work in progress. This is actually the third incarnation of my alchemy lab. The first time I started it 8 months ago. I think I was working on it for 4 months, and then the Epilogue 2 update came out, and then it corrupted the save and I had to restart. And then fungal soil, we got evergreen seed, we got fungal spore, we got plant seed, we got glowing fungal spore over there. Just some materials, some more earthy materials that I'm just gonna keep in the flasks for now. And then here we got our Hamus enclosure. And then this actually, just keep this in mind. Look at this plastic vase. Interesting, huh? I'll talk about that in a little while after I show you the other plastic. Here we got some bushes leading to the fish pond right here with some magical fish in it. I really want to make it so that, you know, I cast the fish spell. I try to add some spells to it, like add trigger to it, and then have them cast like the portal spell or whatever, or just some random cool like circle of vigor. So I have fish that like heal me when I pass them, but it seems like they lose their spells over time. So that's just something we gotta maybe experiment with. This run is all about experimentation. Anyway, let me show you this first. Why not, before I forget. I have Colmy here, or the gourded version of Colmy, right in the center of the lab, and I dragged him here. He's not aggro, obviously. I dragged him here using the vacuum field spell. That's all you need. And the reason why I did that, it's because Colmy actually keeps this area loaded in memory at all times. That's why he is here as my chunk loader, basically. Because I use Dormant Crystal with Trigger, with Return in it, and I usually just spray that over there, one of these sides. Okay. And then we could go wherever we want around the world. I can even go 512 parallel worlds across And then wherever I am, all I got to do is cast Explosive Detonator to immediately teleport right back to the base. Easy peasy. Fast travel all around, fast travel network all around the world, because I built this right underneath the teleporter room. Anyway, over here we have the pantry with milk, maloot, beer, whiskey, which we have to top the whiskey with a little bit of fine worm blood, because whiskey will evaporate when it touches air into whiskey fumes. So you got to just like make sure you put a little bit of that on top. Yahana Sima, Mami. Pea soup, and this is how we get pea soup very easily. You just, in a hot environment like next to the lava lake, pour out some slime, and then you want to freeze that slime, and as that slime naturally melts, it actually melts into pea soup. You can't use fire though. You can't melt it yourself. You have to wait in a hot environment like the lava lake or the desert for it to melt naturally. Hearty porridge, the finest rotten meat, salt, honey, and then room to expand because there's a couple other meats that I don't yet have, and we'll see if we can obtain anything else. Over here we got some blood fading potion. This is not regular blood, it's blood fading. Some lively concoction, some australium, some hell slime. We got space here. This is all going to be redone very soon. I'm going to make permanent summon platforms that are more stable. They don't grow moss. All this moss everywhere, that's the bane of any alchemist. Although you shall see how much I have here, because we've been here for quite a long time. And then I have some gate opener, some instant deathium, of course, and some seed pouch. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Let me grab this. Some guiding powder over here in a bag. And then over here we got, these are all the magical liquids on this side. Ambrosia, diminution, flummoxium, unstable poly, chaotic poly, unstable telly, pheromone, berserkium, invisiblium, concentrated mana, acceleratium, hastium, levitatium, worm pheromone, and ominous liquid. Booyah. And as you can see, the tons and tons of moss that I need to figure out how to clean out of here. We gotta like dig underneath it with a bag or something. This is working on this base. It really feels like Oxygen Not Included or some kind of colony sim. There's things that go wrong, and I gotta figure out how to fix these things without destroying the entire base, you know? Because you can't rebuild in Noita. It's like, once you destroy it by accident, I mean, it's, yeah, you can very easily just like, whoops, black hole through the entire place, and oh man. Here we have the natural liquids on this side. Slime, yellow slime, green slime, which also evaporates when it touches air, so we need to put a little bit of oil or worm blood on top. I like to top it with oil because it looks different. A little bit of poison, same thing. Oil, toxic sludge, greed-cursed liquid, which, similar to pea soup, the way that we get greed-cursed liquid without activating the Curse of Greed is by pouring toxic sludge into a hot environment and freezing that, and then that toxic ice will slowly over time melt into greed-cursed liquid. There might actually be some other materials we can obtain in similar ways, and that's one of the big experiments I'm going to be doing, is freezing every material that can be frozen next to the lava lake or in the desert to see if we end up with anything else afterwards. Anyway, now we got water, we got chili water, easy to get with a little bit of toxic sludge. Pour toxic sludge into a drop of chili water, and all that toxic sludge will just turn into more chili water. And then it stays chilly wherever you put it. Chili water, everyone. Brine, a little bit of urine, a little vomit, a little pus over here too. There's lots of pus around. Swamp, because it's nice to destroy things in it that you might not want, like broken wands. Swamp, that type of swamp. Peat, we got the lighter swamp, which creates peat on its surface, or if you like incorporate air, if I jumped in there, it would all turn into peat. Worm blood, lava, acid, which we top with diminution to keep it stable. Blood, magical liquid, which I top with oil. Freezing liquid, which I also top with oil. Fungus blood, which I top with worm blood. Cement, topped with worm blood. We got molten plastic, and then this other type of molten plastic. Interesting. We'll talk about them very soon. First, we got another. This is Magical Liquid Bright. This is a different magical liquid from this one. Then we have Smoke. Liquid Smoke. To get liquid smoke in the starting mountain, the right-hand side of the mountain, every starting mountain, in every seed, in every parallel world, there are these strange off-white pixels. Some of them are salt, some are concrete, some are snow. These 2 pixels right there are liquid smoke, and then this one is another pixel of liquid smoke. This will quickly dissipate when it touches air, so you just dig carefully underneath it and then stick your flask through the ground in order to get just 1% of liquid smoke, which is all you need. As you can see, it very quickly dissipates when it touches air, which is what I showed there. However, just having 1% in a flask and then filling that flask with Mimicium, surprise, surprise, because it's liquid smoke, makes 100% full flask of liquid smoke. And then in order to store it like this, I just put some worm blood in one of these test tubes and then just upwarp the smoke underneath that, right through the ground. Liquid smoke can actually be shifted to other materials in order to change the color of your levitation trail and the levitation trail of all the Hisi and robot enemies that use the rocket particles as their levitation trail. Just like magical liquid can be shifted to change the color of your shield. Cool little science right there. So now we're gonna see people running around with multicolored shields and levitation trails. Do it, all right? Now going down here, we might as well go just drop down to this side and let me talk about plastics. This plastic right here is actually from that vase. Most of the vases you find will be made out of rock, but some might be plastic. These are actually a vase mimic, and you can melt this vase in order to get a unique type of molten plastic that hardens into white plastic powder. The vase mimic is actually supposed to awaken when you get too close and then fly around shooting at you, but the script is broken and they don't currently work. As you can see, you can also walk right through these plastic ones because they have no collision. This red plastic is actually created 1 pixel at a time by the shotgunner Hisi enemies and the glue Hisi enemies. When they shoot, they actually eject a shell, and that shell is composed of plastic. Before the Epilogue 2 update and Mimicium, I actually sat here getting shot in the face by a shotgunner for hours, collecting just 1 pixel of plastic at a time. But now with Mimicium, all you gotta do is just collect a tiny bit of it and then very carefully pour a tiny bit of lava on top of it. And see that purple-pink material? That's the molten version of this plastic. Just get 1 pixel of that and then fill the flask with Mimicium in order to make endless amounts of purple molten plastic and red plastic powder. And then we got glue, we got burning powder that's not burning, purifying powder, excrement, sodium, but there's a lot that I need to get still. Sandstone, we got the purple barren soil from the Luki layer. We got this barren soil, which also makes normal soil in it. It's hard to like just get barren soil. This is the barren soil from the jungle. We got 1 type of gunpowder, another type of gunpowder. There's a 3rd type of gunpowder that you can acquire with this simple farm. I'm just gonna put liquid detonation on a fish, and then I'm just gonna summon that fish over here on this side. And then there's already a bunch of water over here, but the way I did that was by putting water trail on a summoned fish. And then as soon as I pick up this Kiaskivi, there's going to be a flood of water into this central chamber. And then I'm just going to stand right here in this tube, jumping up and down, or just holding a bag, a powder pouch, and just moving through those explosives, which is creating a unique kind of gunpowder that you can only get in this way, or from the liquid detonation spell. Thank you to MZ for the idea and design of this farm. All right, bone dust, volcanic sand, diamond, soil, coal, mud, snow, sand from the surface, this sand from the petrify spell, blue sand. This sand comes from the cauldron room, actually. And then I have a space here for secret creeping fungus, which is the rarest type of fungus, which we have to get from a great treasure chest. We got yellow fungus, green fungus, mystery fungus, weird fungus, and then we got moss. The moss is the easiest thing to get because it grows on all of this EDR, all of the rock everywhere. Over on this side, we got the metal dust, generic metal dust from melting the Hisi base pretty much. We got copper, we got brass, silver, gold, and steel. And then we have the alchemist's minigun to produce more brass when we need to. All right, over here we have this unique kind of ice, which is created. This is not normal ice, even though it just says it's ice. It's actually from freezing liquid. You get freezing liquid, freeze that, and it makes this like perma ice over here. And we got regular ice, we got frozen blood, frozen acid, toxic ice, frozen slime, and frozen poison. And then I got a bunch of spells on this side for various things. We have most of the alchemy related spells on this side. Arrow actually creates pixels of seed or plant material when you fire it, so you can grow plants by using the arrow spell. And then let's go up here. Just have a little staircase up here to a Mimicium pool. I'm gonna fill it up a little bit more again. I use this when I want to duplicate some liquids nearby. I also have a large ocean of it that I'll show you soon. A little sluice gate that's covered in blood for reasons. And then on this side, I got some wand builds that I'll talk about soon for certain things. We have this wand build, which needs Homebringer on it. We got that for an infinite platform. We got this for a long series of infinite platforms. We got this, that's one parallel world travel wand using the Wand of Multitudes. It's a speed-based parallel world travel wand. We got, this is a boss killer for the Kiwi boss and or the island, the lake boss, stag boss, Tapio's Vassal. Some other, True Orbit is a great spell. I love True Orbit. And then we're getting closer to what I consider the most interesting part. Like I love, there's this build down here. Just, this is where I melt metal powders, just to get molten metals right here, if I need any more molten metal. Over here, we just have a little bit of divine ground. Unfortunately, when you first cast Touch of Grass, it looks really cool. It's all shiny everywhere, but then all of the divine ground that's under the soil, in the soil, it all dies because it needs to touch air, and then you're just left with this line of divine ground at the top. Unfortunately, whoops. Looks like, hang on. Let me just carefully drop that there. Looks like we got a little bit of an overflow. We got the poop stone right here. I gotta, hang on. Just empty this real quick.
Merry Christmas!
All right, almost finished. And sticking with the whole colony sim type of feel, and it really does feel like that. I kind of, as I stream this, we come up with a storyline that basically, I'm this dirty, weird, loony alchemist that moved in up here, and all the denizens, all the creatures, the living things that live down here in the magical temple down here are all like, oh my god, we got this stinky alchemist who moved in above us, doing all of his experiments, pooping on us. He's just like, what does he think we are down here? He just empties his toilet on top of our heads constantly. Ugh. Anyway, I have fun with this, you know. It's been a while. Been working on it for a while. This is like the lower entrance with a bunch of materials, bunch of material globes down here, and then I have alternating plants underneath them. The green ones are from evergreen seed, which I have a flask of up there. And then the red ones are actually from this red seed pouch, and you can get the red seeds in the magical temple, in coal pits, or in hell. I got most of them in hell. Anyway, this is actually, it takes a while to collect 20%. There's just one bush gives you one, not even a percent. You get like 1 pixel per bush. You got to go around just collecting all of those. And now here, this is the creme de la creme so far. We have the molten metal setup. At room temperature, molten metals are actually ignited and will really quickly dissipate, and you'll lose all that material. So to get around this, I actually used this wand build right here from Lymm, Lymm, a very prolific member of the community in both the Eyes rooms and Alchemy. Casting this will create a long series of evenly spaced hollows, which is what I used to house both the ice mages and the molten metals themselves. And now to make the roof, I'm actually going to just remove the plasma enhancer and the plasma cutter, and then in their place, put on a heavy shot and a delayed spellcast, and then move the wand refresh all the way to the end. And then casting this wand build will place a long, infinite lifetime, invisible platform to act as a roof on top of all those containers. Here, I'm just kind of demonstrating this. Down in the lab, I actually made this very carefully, but these are the two exact wand builds I used to make that. In order to get the ice mages here into the base, I actually used this wand build, which creates an infinite lifetime Homebringer wisp that orbits around me. You want to cast that exactly where you want the enemy to end up. So I'm going to stick the tip of the wand through the floor into this container because I want the ice mage in this first one. And there's only a 6% chance that this will successfully cast, so you just keep casting it until you see it orbiting around you. And you want to be very careful. If this purple projectile hits any other enemy or entity, it's going to teleport them instead. So I usually scouted out the area ahead of time and killed all the enemies nearby and just isolated the ice mage that I wanted. And then you just bump into them. I'm going to teleport quickly back to the lab and then fall down here to see our new ice mage research assistant. And yeah, here we go. Finished product. All of the molten metals remain molten, but do not ignite, because the ice mages actually have a freeze field around them that stabilizes the molten metal by extinguishing the fire, keeping it molten at room temperature permanently. So we basically are left with a bunch of liquid metals. And then there's a space right here because there's actually 3 different kinds of molten aluminium. This is robot aluminium. This is aluminium oxide. And then this aluminium that is going to go here when I eventually obtain it is actually the rarest kind. You have to get it from a great treasure chest, probably, because the only thing that aluminium is used for in the entire game is the tough outer shell of the pyramid boss. I love how it took 3 different wand builds. Thank you so much, Lymm and MZ, for all the theory crafting and all the work on all of this. Thank you so much. There are some other molten materials, especially molten wax and molten glass, that I'm also going to have to collect, but these I'm going to have to get from farming the end of everything. I do all of my end of everything farming in a parallel world. That's how I got things like the instant deathium. I'm just going to use this wand build, which requires the Wand of Multitudes, because the Wand of Multitudes has the exact speed stat necessary to make this work. Just gonna encase myself, just make a cocoon of infinite platforms here in the sky. Doesn't have to be pretty. This entire East World number 1 is destroyed from me just spamming the end of everything everywhere. So I'm just gonna cast that, make my cocoon basically, teleport up into the sky, and then cast the end of everything up here, and then take that off. Because what we want to do is single frame spells to acid. You just want to spam spells to acid in order to delete all the other projectiles that are going to be cast by the end of everything. But for now, I'm just going to go over here until after the green lion creates all that acid, and then I'm going to teleport back into here. This isn't the most efficient way to do this, but it's the way that I do it, and it's working for now. I've gathered a good amount of rare materials already. The reason why I'm doing this in a parallel world is just in case we get monstrous powder or creepy liquid, because those materials could absolutely destroy the world, especially if I'm anywhere near the alchemy lab. I don't want that. And there I'm just demonstrating that you can actually use that spell, the Mutamutos spell, in order to get rid of all of the worms if you want to. But I have the Feared by Worms perk, so they can't actually dig through anything or destroy the Great Treasure Chest or the Great Treasure Chest's contents. Unfortunately, most great treasure chests right now are not so great anymore. They've actually been nerfed. And actually getting materials from great treasure chests is a lot more rare than it used to be. So I just want to go on record right now and say that I am hereby starting the Make Great Treasure Chests Great Again movement. Thank you. Because they deserve to... they deserve to be great. Come on. Let's go this way. Yeah. Let me just fall down here. We'll talk about the farms and stuff next. And then we got Draft of Midas containment a little bit. There is some spillage. So if you're going to build an alchemy lab, I would be careful about storing Draft of Midas in it next to or near anything important. And then just right over here is my Ocean of Mimicium. I use this a lot, you know, because all you need now is just 1 pixel of any liquid, and then this will multiply it or, you know, duplicate it onto the farms. I'm sure during this entire video, you've been like, how the hell do you have 526,000 seconds of poly immunity? Well, I made a farm for it. It's actually when you get 524,000 and change seconds of poly immunity, the counter breaks and stops counting down. So you get infinite poly immunity pretty much. As you can see, all I did was I just had a polymage that I brought here and a necrobot. The necrobot continuously revives the polymage, so I just kill it, eat it, it gets revived, I kill it again, it makes another body, which I eat for more poly immunity. There you go. Importantly, I should warn you that even though you have infinite poly immunity, this is still Noita, and Noita finds a way. You can still get polyed. Very rarely, but it can still happen. Now, the last farm I'm gonna show you is my perk farm. I'm using a flask mimic, and I'm just using telekinetic kick to continuously throw it into chaotic poly in order to eventually end up with a leggy mimic, which I already had one in here, but it vanished, as they sometimes do. If you happen to find a leggy mimic someplace in the world, you could just use that Homebringer Wisp that I used on the Ice Mages to bring one wherever you want to bring it. Anyway, I have the Feared by Worms perk, so no worms can dig, but as you're about to see, even if the flask polys into a worm, once it turns back into a flask, it's just gonna upwarp through the ground. And here we go. As soon as you get a leggy mimic, you kill it, and there's a necrobot here that immediately revives it, and now it will permanently remain a leggy mimic. So I can just keep killing it as many times as I want in order to fill this entire room with leggy mimic perks. And then eventually, I don't have this ready yet because going through 12 parallel worlds, I've not yet been able to find Circle of Buoyancy, which I really need for a couple different things. You could bring a perk reroll machine here. We're not going to take the leggy mutation perk. We're actually going to use that perk reroll machine to reroll all of these perks into other perks. So there you go, perk farm. And I'm going to squeeze one final bit of information in here. This is a very recent discovery. Have you ever noticed, watching somebody who has played this game a lot and died a lot, that their sky is literally filled with stars? And somebody who hasn't died a lot in this game, their sky might not have many stars at all. Yeah, that's because sometimes when you die, a new star is born in the sky. The algorithm behind this is actually pretty complex. Now, here's a little theory for you. We're gonna go crazy for a minute here. The game Fez, the granddaddy of all giant secret-based games, one of the final secrets in Fez has you looking at the stars through a telescope in order to solve a very convoluted puzzle. Petri, who is the main developer of Noita and who made the engine and started work on this game in 2006, was a QA tester for Fez. Now, tinfoil hat completely firmly attached to my head right now. What if there is a similar secret in Noita, where we have to die a certain amount of times in order to max out the amount of stars in the sky and then read them in some way? After all, increasing your lifetime of cessation for the cessation cipher secret does say, as luminosity increases, the secret shall reveal itself. Maybe increasing our gamma, contrast, and brightness settings is just a red herring. Maybe the entire cessation cipher is a red herring. Misdirection, if you will. Because as you might know, when we did finally solve the cessation cipher, it just said, seeking truth the wise find instead its profound absence. As if we were being poked fun at. What if the real secret is actually in the luminosity of the stars? Food for thought. Again, taking that tinfoil hat off, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully you learned a lot. If you want to watch all the VODs, again, they're at youtube.com/FurySquared. And if you want to watch me do this live, I am streaming the entire process of collecting all these materials and building this lab over at twitch.tv/FuryForged. I stream Thursday through Sunday, starting around 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to start a little bit earlier than that, but for now, 2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, thank you. I hope you have a really good day. I'll see you next time. Happy noiting.